Hey parents, Carmine here with your video review of Dying Light. While it might seem like there are a lot of zombie games currently on the market, I am still constantly surprised at how much fun they can be. Dying Light is a zombie game with a somewhat significant difficulty level, especially early on. You will start out feeling totally outclassed by even a small number of zombies, and nighttime is a tense mix of sneaking in pitch blackness and running for your life. The difficulty level in the free running system gave this game just enough of a twist to make it a thoroughly enjoyable experience.
Some infected.
Watch yourself, Crane.
The only major factor in Dying Light is violence. Sexuality and substance use are so minor that they're not worth mentioning. You can read about what little there was in the written review if you're concerned. But this game includes blood and gore by the bucket load. Early on, the player will tend to avoid combat, and when it does happen, the low damage, blunt weapons the player will use will cause little noticeable damage to enemies. However, as the player gains access to bladed weapons and begins to upgrade those weapons, the amount of violence cranks up to 11. Hits from bladed weapons will result in severed limbs, decapitations, and significant amounts of blood. Like I said, early weapons and blunt weapons will see less blood than their bladed counterparts, but they are also significantly less effective and less common as the game goes on. It eventually got to the point where I was using some fairly large blades to take down enemies, and some of these hits, especially critical hits, would have surprisingly ridiculous effects. There were numerous times when my sword would carve a zombie cleanly in half, vertically and horizontally. Whichever way you choose to carve it, you can't approach every situation in this game by running away. Players will have to kill some zombies and there will be blood.
Yes, Crane, what do you need?
Firearms are also present in this game, and while they command a much more muted presence than the melee weapons, they can still result in significant blood and gore. Most hits from these weapons will result in a small amount of blood, but headshots completely disintegrated the head of the zombie, leaving behind a splash of blood and little else. While I tended to stick with melee weapons, I did break out rifles when I had to take out zombies from a distance. The player also has access to Molotov Cocktails, which are extremely effective when dealing with groups of enemies. Unfortunately, not all enemies will die from a Molotov. This leaves some of them completely charred yet continuing to attack. This is especially true for the higher level nocturnal enemies. But even if you somehow manage to avoid using blades, firearms, Molotovs, explosives, or anything of that sort, which is impossible, but even if you somehow manage to do that, there is plenty of blood and gore included in the enemies and in the environments. There was a number of places where the walls were literally red with blood, and the piles of decaying meat were stacked feet high. There is even one mission where the player can find a dead dog with his intestines hanging out.
And that was Mike.
While this game is undeniably fun, it is seriously violent. As a result of the dead dog, we gave this game a recommended age of 18 years old. For the full written review, including the extra categories, log on to SideStoryGames.com.